Oh my god, Ross! What's that? Shut up!
Meet me up.
Shut up!
Okay, I'm gonna start the video.
Alvin!
The morning of Tuesday,
Why
May
did you
27th,
redeem it,
1997,
what?
was just like every other day. It was a hot and steamy early May day, and according to residents, there wasn't even a cloud in the sky.
Capybara.
Local residents inside the small Texas town of Jarold were getting up and heading off to work and to school. Unbeknownst to anyone, a concoction of weather conditions were being mixed together off in the distance that would eventually spell disaster for the community. A slow-moving cold front was draped parallel to a dry line, with just a couple of miles in between. A dry line is a very dense line of air that separates moist air and dry air, and it acts as sort of a wedge between two different systems. Think of it as a racetrack or a bowl, something that warm air and cold air can bounce off of.
Yo, Thanos, I
At
just
the
got out of
same
school. I
time
don't
that
wear
this
learning
cold
anymore.
front was creeping in, miles above it in the sky, an upper atmospheric impulse called a gravity wave pushed from the southwest. This gravity wave came from an already existing storm system that was up in Oklahoma. So first of all, you have a cold front from the northwest, a gravity wave from the southwest. Both of them are about to interact and crash into the dry line that splits from south to north. Ahead of these boundaries, in Jarold, the air was extremely muggy, very, very muggy, and with all that pressure coming in, the atmospheric instability was literally at its highest possible outcome. Inching into the afternoon, the National Center for Atmospheric Research detected extremely strong updrafts at a CAPE value of over 7,500 joules per kilogram. Now, CAPE, or CAPE, is how much energy an air parcel has when it goes straight up in the atmosphere. The National Center for Atmospheric Research says that if there's even a rating over 4,000, then that's considered extreme. And the storm was already making a reading of over 7,500. A storm was brewing, the likes of which hadn't been seen in decades. Meteorologists went to their instruments and readings to see what was happening. The wind was picking up, the moisture in the air was being used as fuel, the atmosphere was thick and palpable, it was on its way, and there wasn't a thing that could be done to stop it.
Sigma. Okay. Bro.
The extreme instability in the atmosphere was enough to prompt the SPC to issue a moderate risk of severe weather happening later in the afternoon of May 27th. The exact issuing was a tornado watch for Jarold and the surrounding areas. This watch came out at exactly 12:54 p.m. with the weather worsening. At this time, it was just starting to get cloudy, and the sun was being blocked out. With the weather worsening, the cold front and muggy atmosphere about to collide, and the dry line acting as a mixing bowl for the two, 3 hours later, at 3:30 p.m., a tornado warning was issued. If you're not aware of the system in the USA, a tornado watch is like an early alert that a storm is forming that could have the ability to create a tornado. But a warning, that means that there's a storm happening that can make a tornado at any second, like right then. Sadly, this warning for Jarold and his residents wouldn't be enough to save them from what was about to happen. And they had to take shelter, would not save the lives of everybody. The local sirens had blared just 10 minutes before the tornado hit, giving absolutely no time for residents to seek shelter or to put a survival plan in place. Reality was setting in. Something was coming. At some time right before that warning came out, the famous Jarold tornado was about to touch ground. Film crews and storm chasers alike were out on the back roads, zooming in and covering the instance. At this point, the fall was very thin, almost like a rogue, gory piece of spaghetti, giving many people hope that it would just dissipate in a few minutes. However, to their horror and dismay, just 10 minutes later, it would grow and morph into something that would haunt witnesses and bystanders forever. Viewers looked on in horror as the system produced another funnel cloud and formed a multi-vortex tornado, making the beast much, much larger than it was before, and forming a sight that would go on to live in infamy. Residents, pets, wild animals, and everything in between looked to the horizon as the dead man started to walk on the ground. The Titan passed less than 1 mile from the middle of downtown Jarold at around 3:40 p.m. and headed directly towards its target, a subdivision known as Double Creek Estates. This subdivision would see utter and total annihilation as the dead man walking tornado would combine itself into a 3/4 mile wide spiral of hell. Of the 38 homes that were in the neighborhood, 2 remained. The rest, only concrete slabs could be found.
Yo. Just imagine a tornado looking like it's walking.
Most
Oh, I
notably,
heard of that. I heard of that. I mean, talk about. And we play down. Yeah.